Okay, we have Brady Ramsey here with Over the Top Magic, and we're back for another interview. We're talking about how to get more out of your trade show. So, if this is specifically for if you're a marketing team or you're a small business owner, maybe you are an event planner or HR director, you're someone that needs to organize a corporate event, especially if it's a trade show or any kind of corporate event. So, last time Brady talked to us about how to get away from being overwhelmed and, worried about the tight deadline, and you need to attract more people to your booth, but you have budget concerns and it's really difficult to find quality and reliable entertainers for a booth. And usually what they end up being is lousy sales and poor results. And then you have trouble promoting the new product. And that was the whole point of doing it to begin with. And Brady talked about an overview of the 5 steps we need to do to have a great trade show and presentation. Makes the process easy and smooth and predictable so that it falls within a budget, and finding great and reliable talent is easy to do and helps you promote and get better leads and more sales. And that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve. So Brady, hello, say hello to everybody and we'll get started.
How's it going, everybody?
Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to go and focus on our first strategy, our first key, and you mentioned it briefly last time, which is to make a plan. And then afterward, of course, you need to find the right entertainment, hire the entertainment, put on the event, and then do post-event analysis. But today we're just going to talk about making a plan. And there's 3 main things that we want to get in there. So the first thing you mentioned was maybe determining a goal. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, it depends. You don't want to go into your trade show blind. You don't want to just say, "Hey, let's go to a trade show and put up a booth," and not even know what it costs to have a booth at a trade show or anything like that. That does get pricey depending on where your trade show is. They charge a lot of money per day, so you might want to consider that to what your goal is when you walk away from the trade show. So keep that in mind, because there's a few things when I get a call from like, let's say I'm at an event, corporate event, and then I end up talking to their marketing person that within the company, and they say, "We might want to use you at a trade show. How does that work?" And I was like, "Well, it depends. What are you trying to get out of the trade show? Are you trying to get more leads, or do you have a specific new product that you're coming out with and you want to promote that product?" And then we kind of go from there, because it's kind of a mix of both. But if you're trying to promote a product, there's a few things I could do depending on the size of the product or what it is. I could develop at least one trick of my show around that product and use it in that way to where it segues into your sales team being able to keep the people there once the show's done and sell the product.
Awesome. Another thing you had mentioned, we had talked about is it's really important that the business determines what the outcome would be, like the number of leads that they would need to get to be profitable. That seems to be pretty tough, and I bet a lot of businesses don't even bother with that.
Well, I don't know if they wouldn't bother. I mean, like I said in the in the first step, if you go into a trade show and end up spending thousands of dollars a day just to have your booth there and you don't sell anything, that's just a huge waste. So you do want to, if you had a trade show the previous year and you had 2,000 leads, and you call me and I say, "Hey, what if I can get you 10,000 leads over the weekend?" You're probably going to want to jump on that, because now you have a lot more people's information and you're walking away with at least some sort of hope that you have people to contact now. If they didn't buy at the trade show, you have their information to contact them and still sell the product.
Yeah, excellent. That's good planning. So at least trying to, the trade show could be expensive, and so figuring out how many leads is important, because then you could figure out what you would need to get the return on investment, right? So that makes total sense. And then another thing you mentioned was creating a schedule and determining the number of performances or engagements with the audiences. How does that work? Like, I'm not personally, I've been to trade shows, and I've seen entertainment, but I never even thought about that before. How does that typically work? Is there, do you get a
Well,
lot of performances? Or?
yeah, it works a couple ways. Depends on how you want to structure it. If you, some trade shows are different. Some you just have a booth out in the open, and it would be up to me to draw a crowd to doing, like, say, a card trick here, and then, hey, you over there, come watch this, and then all of a sudden you got 30, 40 people around, and you do a couple tricks, and then bam, they're there, and hopefully the sales guys can do their thing and keep them there. There's also trade shows where you have a badge that you have to scan to get into a certain area. So if I'm in one of those trade shows, we'll post signs of shows at certain times during the day, and that way there's 5 or 6 shows throughout the 8-hour day, and to come check it out at certain times so you don't miss it or wonder what's going on. There'll be signs all over. So
Is there like in a day as a performer, is there is there a maximum number of times that you would be able to do a performance like this? For example, if the company said, I want you out there, all day long, every hour, I mean, that doesn't sound realistic. You would need to take breaks, and you would also not want to burn out an audience, right? You would want to, as people come by, you'd want to get them and then maybe have another, how do
yeah,
you do that?
these are only 15 to 20-minute shows. So if I do one show an hour, chances are the people that are watching the first show are going to disappear into the trade show, or by the time I do the next show, the next hour, they may not even be on the same side of the building. So, but if they're a huge fan and like the show and want to see it again, but then they can come watch it. But sometimes you will have multiple shows because I, as the magician, won't want to get burned out doing the same show over and over and over and over. But yeah.
And how many people might see this show? Like, let's say you're doing, like you said, 15 minutes. What is the number of people that might see each show? Just
Well, it varies. Like the very first show may not have anybody, may have 2 people, but then throughout the day, hopefully it'll build up steam, and then they will leave that show, and then they'll walk. Hopefully by midday, people will hear cheering and clapping and wonder what's going on over there, and then they'll see the sign, hey, there's a next show in an hour, let's come back, and then hopefully the crowd will multiply throughout the whole day and never go back to a small crowd. So
what's some of the bigger crowds that you've seen when you're doing events, shows, or corporate events? Or
well, even corporate events are kind of different. You can get up to myself. You can have 100 people, 200 people, 500 people. I have magician friends out there in the United States that have thousands of people, like stadium stacked seats. But I haven't done one of those yet, so I can't really speak on those. But yeah,
that's pretty cool. What about with close-up magic? Is there specifically, is there a kind of a limit or a good number of people for that? Or would you just, change your show if you had too many? But what would you do if you wanted to do close-up magic specifically?
well, a lot of times you'll, like I said, depends on the trade show, but you could use the close-up magic to draw in the first 10 people and then just pull them in and start doing a show. And then as you're doing a trick, you can still, hey, you over there, come check this out. And then you just keep going, and then more and more people, and you just, they may miss the first 2 tricks, but then they still get to see the last 10 minutes and then go from there.
I thought of another question that I'm guessing that some marketing teams or business owners might be thinking, and we probably should have addressed this earlier, but it might be an objection. Like, why would I even hire an entertainer to begin with? Why don't I just put up a booth and put my stuff out there and my, images, and just have one of my salespeople or marketing people sit at the booth? Like, why would I even bother getting help at all?
Well, it's kind of a catch-22. If you've ever walked around a mall and you've seen like cell phone booths or people working at the little kiosks. Some of them are gung ho and they'll try to get you over there. And you're at the mall, you don't want to be interrupted. But then you walk by people and they're just sitting there because they don't care. They get paid by the hour. So it all depends. But having a gimmick, as in a reason for people to come to your booth without buying anything, just to get them there and get them excited about what's going on, then just, like I said, segue into the sales team. And then, hopefully most people won't be rude and just be like, oh, he's about to pull on the sales guy, let's go. So yeah, they took the time to watch the show. Hopefully they'll take 2 more minutes to at least listen to your spiel on the product. So,
and you know what, I agree, because when I've been to trade shows, I remember many times where I didn't even know what I was looking at, whether I would really need or want that what that company had to offer. But I was kind of vaguely interested, but then they had somebody that was very engaging and entertainer in the front, and I couldn't help but stop. And then once they had my attention, then I was there long enough to even take notice of what they were doing behind that, and then before I knew it, I was sitting down with the sales team or whoever that was representing the business and talking to them about what they did. They got my contact information. So I think that's happened many times to me, and I bet a lot of people can relate to that. So that's a good point.
Yeah, that's as I mentioned, the type of trade show where you have the badge and you make people have to scan to even come look at your booth. That's the way to go, because then now you have their email, their whatever information they put on that badge.
So they that's the newest. That's what they do now mostly, right? You have a badge, and then the person there has some device to scan it. Is that how it works?
Yeah, or there's just a scanner just right there, and they just scan, and then they walk to your booth. Yeah, that way, if they for some reason they are in a hurry but they want to check out the show, but then they scan their badge and then they leave halfway during the show, I don't really mind, because the company that hired me still got their information. So.
Right, that makes sense. That's a great way to capture leads. That's fantastic. So I guess we might have covered it, unless there's something else you want to add about making a plan and kind of preparing for a trade show. Is there anything else that goes into preparing? I know next time we're going to talk about how to find the entertainment, how to find the right people and how to get that organized and how to hire and put on the event. So we don't need to go there today, but is there anything else in terms of making a plan or preparation or thinking about it?
Not really, other than in the next step we talked about finding the entertainment, and then once you have the entertainment, then you could set up a meeting and plan the trade show that way, versus we have a trade show now, we just need a random entertainer, versus finding an entertainer and then work him into the trade show already. So.
Got it. Well, that's good. That's great. Well, thank you for sharing. This has been very informative. Thank you, Brady.
You're welcome.
Good to get your perspective. Yeah. And so if somebody wants to ask you questions or hire you, what do they need to do?
Well, you can Google me, or you can just go to my website, overthetopmagic.com, and has my phone number. There's a form to fill out if you want to go that route, and shoot me an email and I can contact you that way. We can set up a phone call.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.